Hi, and welcome to This Week in East Brunswick, the town's own news and information program. Tonight, Channel 8's Stuart Davis will interview Roseanne Hune from Public Service Electric and Gas about some energy conservation tips for the cold weather months. We'll take a sneak preview at an upcoming For Art's Sake with sculptor Michael Shacham. Gabrielle Arauz, a 9th grader from Churchill Junior High School, will be featured this week on Constitutional Comments. Also, the return of Middlesex County Agricultural Agent Pegi Ballister-Howells, and a look at the future farmers of America from the Votech High School on Riders Lane in East Brunswick. And we'll close with consumer advocate Adrian Eisner on Consumer Aware, this week with information on how to avoid investment fraud. Due to the snowstorm last Monday, the Township Council action meeting was canceled and rescheduled for Monday, February 1st, and will precede the Council's regularly scheduled agenda meeting. Now here's a quick look at what's on Channel 8 next week. Monday at 10 a.m., it's Lenore Kulik on Look Great, Feel Great and spot toning for the lower body, followed at 10:30 by stories from the library for the preschoolers. Tuesday at 7 p.m., we'll have In Print from the city of Beverly Hills, California. At 7:30 p.m. Tuesday, Ken Shalhoub speaks with his guest, Dr. Alan Spotnitz, about recent advances in cardiac surgery on Let's Talk Health. At 8 p.m., insurance information from host Paul Hansen and guests Nancy Bleffin and John Walsh on You and Your Money. At 8:30, on Business Bylines, John Runyon speaks with members of the East Brunswick Regional Chamber of Commerce. Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., Dr. Joseph Sweeney takes a look at some award-winning sports at the high school on Spotlight on Education, with Athletic Director Charlie King and coaches Don Weeder and Lou Cosa. Followed by 18 Growing Up in East Brunswick with Stuart Davis. And we'll be back Thursday night at 7 and 8 p.m. with an all-new This Week in East Brunswick. Also Thursday, February 4th, at 9 p.m., we'll mark our first cable cast of this year's Township Council budget hearings, which will have been taped on Tuesday, February the 2nd. And be sure to check the Channel 8 program guide for repeats of all the shows just mentioned. Now let's join Stuart Davis in the studio.
Hello, this week I'm speaking with Roseanne Hune, a conservation specialist with PSE&G, about some tips on how you can keep your house warmer on these coldest months of the winter. Roseanne, could you tell me a little bit about what someone can do to conserve energy in their homes?
Yes, Stuart. There's a lot of simple, low-cost, no-cost conservation measures that an individual can do in their home. First of all, a lot of people don't realize how much heat loss is lost right through the attic. Approximately 50% of heat rises and is lost right through the attic. And that's one of the areas that should be insulated.
How can PSE&G help determine where the heat is being lost?
Well, one of the programs PSE&G has is a home energy use survey, and if the individual just called the Energy Conservation Center, we can send a trained, certified auditor to your home.
Right, and then so one of the things that is probably most common is insufficient attic insulation.
Yes.
Another one that we've talked about a little bit earlier is the weather stripping. Could you tell me?
Yes, another area where you can lose heat in the winter is your windows and your doors. And if you were to take the door, for example, if you can see daylight through the door, or if you can slip a quarter underneath the door, that's one of the areas that should be weather stripped.
How much heat is actually saved by doing these?
Insulation, you can save approximately 30% on your bill if you were to follow through with insulation.
Does PSE&G have some kind of energy plan where somebody could learn how to do it themselves?
Well, there's different ways that you can find out how to save energy, and you can call the Conservation Center directly, and we can send you workbooks and a lot of literature that we have. And another thing is the Home Energy Use Survey, where the auditor can actually sit with you and recommend certain things to do in your home.
What are some of the other things that you can do in your home to save on your heating bill?
Sure. Another area is water. Okay, we should all learn to conserve energy, and one of the areas is your water heater. For just $10, PSE&G can send a contractor to your house and wrap your water heater.
Right. Now, PSE&G and other utilities in the state provide several programs.
Very similar programs, right.
Right. What are some of the other programs PSE&G provides for its citizens?
Okay. Specifically for seniors, we have a Senior Save program. And I brought some brochures with me today. And a senior can basically just call the Energy Conservation Center and say, The only requirement is that the senior must be on Lifeline, which is a state program for seniors, and we can give them up to $200 worth of free weatherization.
Wow, that's great, I guess, for the seniors on fixed incomes. Now, there's also some loan programs.
Yes, okay. Now, we have a loan. Basically, what the customer has to do first is have a home energy use survey, and after he determines where in his house he's losing the heat, he can follow through with a loan from PSE&G, and it's either a zero-interest loan or a low-income loan.
Is that you have to earn a certain amount of money to qualify for something like that?
Well, the loans are for individuals that make under $50,000 a year. And if you were interested, you could borrow up to $4,000 to follow through with some of the conservation measures recommended through the audit.
Right. Now, one of the things that you mentioned is if you have radiators, there's a very low cost item that you can
Now,
do.
this is another program, but for a radiator, there is a very simple thing that you can do, and it's called a radiator reflector. And it's simply a piece of aluminum on a board, which goes right behind the radiator, and it reflects the heat right back into the room to keep your room warmer.
Now, that can be done. Can someone do that themselves?
Sure, you can do it yourself. All you have to do is go to a home improvement center or a hardware store and ask for a radiator reflector. If you can't locate it, you can call us at PSE&G if you're a heating customer, and we'll send a contractor to your home to do it for you. Basically, it's a very minimal cost item.
Right. Now, to keep a home comfortably warm, I know my house is very poorly insulated, and when I'm cold and when it's real cold up, I just turn the heat up to like 76 or something. What's the
recommended temperatures? Yeah. For the winter, an individual should keep their temperature at approximately 68 degrees during the day, and at night, turn it down to 60.
And that would keep somebody comfortable?
Yes, yes.
If there's proper insulation.
Another thing that an individual can do is buy an automatic setback clock thermostat, and it goes on at predetermined times. It can save a lot of money.
Right. Now, is the location of the thermostat, would that make a difference?
Yes. If you're going to use an automatic thermostat, the best place to put it is away from a cold wall or a sunny window, because that could give you a false reading.
So put it on an inside wall or something?
Yes.
Like that. Okay, and you mentioned the attic. What about the basement? Are there things that you can do in your basement?
Yes, there's insulation, there's caulking also in the basement. Anywhere where you have different materials meeting in the home should be caulked. In other words, if you have a lot of wires coming in, either telephone wires or whatever, you could caulk around the wires, or between the beams you should put insulation. So there's a lot of things in the basement that should be considered. As I mentioned before, the water heater wrap it only costs $10, and it could save a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm. Now, where are some of the other places heat escapes?
Floors, crawl spaces, doors. There's a lot of other areas in the home.
And basically you can caulk most of these.
Caulk, weather strip. Another area, if you have poorly insulated windows, there's an item you could buy at a hardware store. They sell plastic storm windows, and you can put them up yourself. They're relatively easy to do. It saves a lot of drafts from coming in through the house.
Right, and you can put that on all the windows, basement windows. Yes,
basement, all around the house where you feel a draft, you could put the plastic storm windows. We also sell that at PS.
Oh, you do?
Through our customer sale program.
So basically, if somebody wanted to get their whole house insulated in a survey, they could first get a free
home energy use survey. If they want to go into major repairs, they could find out about the loan. And if it's minor repairs, it's the customer sale program. And for senior citizens, we have free services up to $200 free weatherization if they're on Lifeline.
Okay, well, that's great. Is there a phone number that we can give to the viewers?
Sure, it's toll-free. The number is 1-800-854-4444.
And then if they call, they can get one of these brochures?
Sure, they should ask for our low-cost energy-saving tips or literature on any program that they're interested in. We have literature on everything, and also a workbook.
Okay, great. So one of these will give you 35 low-cost energy tips. And I think we're about out of time, but it was really a pleasure having you.
It's a pleasure being here on this very cold day.
Yes, it is a very cold day, and you know that because you'll be watching us tonight, and hopefully Roseanne has given you some tips on how you can stay warmer for less money. That's all for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In February, For Art's Sake features Dolly Vasta interviewing Israeli-American sculptor Michael Shacham. In this segment, Michael discusses the influences of war on his art.
You have to understand that my work, I think most artists are like that, but certainly it's true for me, is a reflection of my life. And whatever I happen to be going through at the time is reflected in the art. And when the periods when I was involved in the army or in the wars, it reflected that. And I have a lot of work that deals with men in war, people in war, and what it does to people. 1967 was a very quick war in that immediately after the war fighting was over, like 6 days or 7 days, within a week we were back home. And so most of the work I did after 1967 is sculpture, because I could go back to my studio and work. And it dealt with the war experience. In 1973 it was different in that we were kept in the army for about almost 6-7 months after the fighting. And so I could not sculpt physically, and what I could do was draw, and I used drawing as the medium of expression.
Was your art a form of catharsis?
Well, I think it's maybe not the right term, but I would say that had I not had the war, I would have other things to say. But since the war happened, and I happened to be involved in a unit in the Israeli army, and it was what I had to say. And therefore, the art became an expression of the war for a long period of time. And a lot of things I did were related to the war. After the '73 war, for instance, I had a very interesting experience. When the fighting was over, I tried to draw, and I couldn't draw. Nothing came out. I lost the ability to draw totally. And it took me a concentrated effort just to get some of that back, because I had to say what I wanted to say. And it just wasn't happening. And it took me a lot of effort to just start drawing. And as it came back gradually, I began to draw what I saw, my memories. Well, not the memories initially. First I started drawing what I saw, remnants of battle, broken tanks, broken vehicles, broken people, going from one to the other. I found we were transferred, my unit fought on the Golan Heights, but we were transferred to the Sinai Desert, to one of the biggest battlefields of the war after the fighting. And just being there, just being on that battlefield and going through the enormous amounts of material, men, dead men left in the field that nobody could find because it was such an enormous, enormous desert, and you just broken up tanks, trucks, anything. All the war materials that were left on the battlefield were just lying around in the sand. And what happened is I started going around, and we were kind of a reconnaissance unit. So we would go out with jeeps from place to place, and the members of my unit got involved as well, and they would call me, Mike, I saw something here, I saw something there, and I would go out and do drawings of these things. And then for a period, I started finding bodies of soldiers that were just left in the field as they fell, because nobody knew they were there. I started drawing them. I could do that for about a week until I couldn't do that anymore. But what happened was I started expressing what I felt. And I began to realize that I was speaking not only for myself, but for all the guys that knew me, because they got involved, and I was, in essence, becoming their spokesperson. What happened was I found that I was expressing my innermost feelings. And at that point, I found that we were all together, that my innermost feelings were like everybody else's innermost feelings, or most other people. And what I had to say was what they had to say, only I had the tools to say it. And that's what the art was. And this whole period was a very gratifying period for me, if you could use that term in this kind of a situation. I was doing all these drawings, and people started coming to me asking me for copies of drawings, and what I did eventually, I made a folder and gave each one a folder of the drawings of a collection, rather than giving out a drawing for each one. This way we could all have a collection. And then after the fighting was over and we were released from the army, we went back to our homes. People from the unit started asking me to bring an exhibition over to my kibbutz, bring one to my moshav, wherever it happened to be. And every weekend I would go out to a different settlement with an exhibition of sculpture. And they would pay my expenses, and that was all. I don't think I sold a piece of work that whole period, not in that context at least. But still, it was one of the most gratifying periods I had, because I found that what I had to say is what they had to say. And my art became a conduit to these people of what we all went through. It wasn't just me, it was something that was deep in everyone. And I think that that is certainly what art should be about. It should be about expressing people's deepest emotions, deepest feelings. And in this, I think it was a very gratifying period for me.
To see this interview in its entirety, watch For Art's Sake with Dolly Vasta in February.
Hello, my name is Gabrielle Arauz, and I'm a 9th grader at Churchill Junior High School, and I'm presenting this week's comment on the Constitution. My topic is the convention's delegates. Our Constitution was born September 17, 1787, over 200 years ago. Our Constitution includes a preamble, 7 articles, and amendments that have been adopted over the past 200 years. Our Constitution tends to differ from others, such as England, and that is known as written. England's Constitution differs from ours again, and that is known as flexible, and can be changed by an ordinary act of Parliament or judicial court. Our Constitution is known as rigid, and it has to go through a long process of forming an amendment for it to be changed. Our delegates had problems arriving to the Constitution. As a result, the convention had to be postponed. 2 disagreements centered in forming our Constitution. One was which the smaller states wanted to make sure they retained their power. Larger states felt that they should have more power because of the wealth and population. Now, another problem was how the Congress. Oliver Ellsworth thought that the Congress should be changed, and the Congress won his oppositions because of his approval. The Constitution was finally ratified in June 1788. Our Constitution was known then not to be perfect, but it took all summer for these delegates. They fought, they swore to secrecy, all to make a more perfect union. Our Constitution lasted 200 years, and hopefully will last another 200 more. Thank you.
This is Peggy Ballister-Howells, Middlesex County Agricultural Agent, and today I'm here at the Middlesex County Vocational High School in East Brunswick, and I'd like to share with you a program in horticulture that also combines with Future Farmers of America. And I'd like to share with you the outstanding leadership qualities that are being developed here through this program. First, the President.
The meeting will now come to order. We are now holding the meeting of the Middlesex County Future Farmers of America. Mr. Vice President, are all officers at their stations?
I shall call roll of officers, see whether they're at their stations, and report back to you, Mr. President. Sentinel.
Stationed by the door.
Your duties there?
Through this door pass many fans of the F.A S. It is my duty to see that the door is open to our friends at all times and that they are welcome. I care for the main room and paraphernalia. I strive to keep the room comfortable and assist the President in maintaining order.
Reporter.
The reporter is stationed by the flag.
Why by the flag?
As the flag covers the United States of America, so I strive to inform the people in order that every man, woman, and child may know that the Future Farmers of America is a national organization that reaches from the state of Alaska to Puerto Rico and from the state of Maine to Hawaii.
Treasurer.
Stationed at the Emblem of Washington.
Your duties there?
I keep a record of receipts and disbursements just as Washington kept his form account carefully and accurately. I encourage thrift among members and strive to build up our financial standings through savings and investments.
Secretary.
Stationed by the ear of corn.
Your duties there?
I keep an accurate record of all meetings and correspond with other secretary wherever corn is grown and future farmers meet.
The advisor.
Here by the owl.
Why by the owl?
The owl is a time-honored emblem of knowledge and wisdom. Being older than the rest of you, I am asked for advice from time to time as the need arises. I hope my advice is always based on true knowledge and ripened with wisdom. Mr. Vice President, why is there a plow at your station?
The plow is a symbol of labor and tillage of the soil. Without labor, neither knowledge nor wisdom can accomplish much. My duties require me to assist at all times in directing the work of our organization. I preside over meetings in the absence of our president, whose place is beneath the rising sun.
Why is the president so stationed?
The rising sun is a token of a new era in agriculture. If we will but follow the leadership of our president, we will be led out of the darkness of selfishness and into the glorious sunlight of brotherhood and cooperation. Mr. President, all officers are at their stations.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
This is Mr. Dave Ritter, the horticulture teacher here at the vocational school, as well as the FFA advisor. Dave, could you tell us a little bit about what those two roles entail?
Well, vocational agriculture here in our school, we mainly major in horticulture, floral design work, floriculture, and landscaping. The FFA is an organization for students enrolled in vocational agriculture, giving them the opportunity to develop leadership skills, skills in their trade, public speaking skills.
So the two different programs are really sort of intertwined.
Right, you don't have one without the other, really.
And what are some of the projects that the FFA students work on?
Okay, each individual student has a supervised occupational experience program where they're either out working in the industry or using the school greenhouse or their home to provide a project for themselves. Some of the chapter projects we do are Building Our American Communities project.
I'm familiar with that one. You've worked on that one with me.
Right. And this year we're doing some work with the Grange on it and some other organizations in the community where we go out and provide some public service.
So I know that in the past you've worked with Kitty Keepwell Camp.
Right.
What have you done there?
When they were putting up a new building at their camp, they were in need of some work to go in and do some landscaping to preserve some of the soil that was eroding and so forth, and the students went up and worked up there. We've also worked with some Girl Scout troops in the area that the Girl Scouts come in and we teach them. We run a Food for America program, sort of teaching them about agriculture and where food comes from.
What do you think is the most valuable part of this program?
Oh, tough question. Just the experience that it gives the kid in the horticulture industry, plus helping the student develop their skills, their responsibility, and their citizenship.
Now, I've worked with you for 8 years already. How many years have you been here?
It's been that long, huh, Peg?
Yeah, it's been that long.
I guess I've been here about 8 years now. So we kind of started from the beginning and grew from there.
Well, I think it's a wonderful program, and I've seen the students grow, and it's an amazing change that happens when these students come in here as freshmen and leave as seniors, and I'd like to congratulate you on an outstanding program.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time. This is Peggy Ballister-Howells, Middlesex County Agricultural Agent.
Hello, and welcome to Consumer Aware. I'm Adrienne Eisner, Director of the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. Today we're going to be talking about how to avoid investment fraud. People lose an estimated $10 billion a year because of investment fraud. And if you are absolutely certain that you could never fall for an investment scam, the swindler starts out with a big advantage. Investment fraud generally happens to people who think that it can't happen to them. However, you can protect yourself by knowing what to look for, what questions to ask, and what your rights as an investor are. There is no typical profile for a swindler. He may attempt to gain your trust by mimicking the sales approaches of legitimate firms, whether they be through phone and mail solicitations or advertisements placed in popular magazines and newspapers. But most investment fraud is carried out over the telephone. Reputable investment firms encourage you to ask questions and be entirely comfortable with your investment decision. A swindler only wants your money. He will try to keep you from asking questions by asking questions himself, and they will be designed to have you answer yes, such as, "You'd be interested in hearing about a fantastic investment opportunity, wouldn't you?" You can turn off an investment swindler by making sure that you ask questions yourself, such as, "Where did you get my name? And will you send me written information about the investment?" The caller may claim that you were chosen from a select list of intelligent and prudent investors. In fact, the select list may be the telephone directory or a purchase list of persons who subscribe to particular magazines. Asking the caller to send you a written explanation of the investment that can be reviewed by your attorney, accountant, and/or investment advisor can effectively turn off a swindler. So, before committing your funds, seek and obtain information about the investment, the firm, and the salesperson. Take the time to make an informed and well-considered decision. For further information, please contact us at the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. We're located in the municipal building, and our hours are Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Thank you for joining me on Consumer Aware. See you again next time.